Hi guys, this is Gary from Virtual Pilot, and today we're going to talk about the AAT Sentinel antenna tracker for you FPV pilots out there. It's a DIY kit that will work with iNav, Betaflight, and ArduPilot if you're an analog user and you have the right gear in your planes or multi-rotors. It's a DIY kit that you use with your own 3D components, so you will need a 3D printer to make those up, or have a good buddy that'll do it for you, of course. Um, it's an easy print kit. It's quite straightforward to print. You don't need to have a super fine um, 3D printer that's really well configured. Mine's not exactly the best. It's about 7 years old, and it certainly doesn't print particularly well. So even I can print it, so you should be good with that. It does need a bit of fine finishing with some glass paper to just take off the rough edges, and in particular the gear assembly. You want a good mesh on your tracking gears, so a little bit more effort around that to finish those off. STL files are available to download. The source CAD files are also available. They've been created in Google SketchUp Make 2017 version, which is free. So you can directly edit those and change them to suit your own RX or build on any extra components that you want for your tracker. Great thing about 3D printing, yeah. There's also some additional STLs and CAD files included in the download area for things such as a battery mount, which will fit directly onto the tracking unit. There's also one that fits onto your tripod leg if you prefer that option. There's also a couple of different monitor mounts, one for a very common 7-inch LCD screen to go on the tripod mount, or one for a 4-inch monitor, which will go directly onto the actual tracker itself, which makes a very, very neat unit with a 4-inch monitor and a battery all in one. It literally just plugs straight onto your tripod, and that's it. Okay, let's see what we've got in the box. Okay. One circuit board. Yeah, that's a Sentinel circuit board. Main part, most expensive part probably. Three meters fat shark to Sentinel cable. That is super, really useful. We have XT60 to power adapter. 2 servos. They are there, MG. Tower Pro Cell MG996Rs. Various cables. Alright. We have a pack of hardware, which is all the screws, bearings, nuts, washers, that sort of thing. And we have a bag with the all the components to assemble on the Sentinel board. So that's pins, we have LEDs, connectors, OLEDs, buzzer, that sort of thing. Cool. Okay, we'll start with the main box first of all, and we'll screw in the XR adapter. Okay, let's go through that. Seems to be right. Yes, perfect. CXR adapter on. At this point, I would double check it on your own stand to make sure that fits correctly, because now is the time if you want to make any adjustments or any sanding to get it to fit better. Now's the time to do it before you assemble it. Okay. Probably slightly easier to assemble it like that. Okay. Yeah, sometimes it's worth putting a 3mm drill through there first just to make the holes a little loose. I didn't do that on this one. You have to be a little bit careful with the OLEDs because they can be quite fragile. It doesn't take a lot to crack those. Slightest bit of pressure and they will go, unfortunately, but it is what it is. Don't necessarily need the OLED, it's just a little bit of eye candy really. This is actually the first one that I've bothered to put it on there. Normally I just use the LED. As long as I know I've got power to it and the telemetry, you can see the rest of it on the phone app if you particularly want to. Okay. Put the locking nuts on the back here. If you didn't spot it before, the 3 pins that you connect to go at the top. That way you know that it's the right way around. Full size. Let's try that one. Okay, I don't have the right size for it at all. Let's try a pair of pliers. As you can tell, I've never actually done one of these before. You don't have to do all that really tight, just a little bit, just to nip it on there. That's all it needs, because they are quite fragile, so, and it's not going to go anywhere. So this one here, if you see, the screws are going to go down onto the plastic coated film there. So again, don't screw them really tight. Don't try not to let it go around. Just let it. Just nip up very, very gently on there. Hardly no pressure at all. Perfecto. Okay. Next we'll take the base and we'll put this in here. Hang on, let me just assemble this on here first. Okay, clips in there quite well. Just got to get the LEDs in there. And these LEDs is the 4 holes that they pop into. You will need to run a 3mm drill through there probably just to make sure they're the right size. And when you go to assemble, just use something just to pop them in there. There we go. Magic. On the base unit, you'll see there are some little arrows, and that just gives you an indication so you know which way is orientated, because although it looks like it's a square, it's very slightly rectangular, and they only fit in there properly one way. So this literally just slides down, and that's it. 4 screws, 1 in each corner. Again, just gently nip them up. Don't put any significant pressure. The board's not going anywhere. Colour the side panels. I said before that actually one side is slightly longer than the other side. You can just see it here. There's a back and there's 2 side panels. The cooling holes go at the top. Okay. May not look the best to fix at this point, but once you screw together, it all pulls it together really tight and quite strong. Didn't do a great job on these, but run the sandpaper, some glass paper across these to make them nice and smooth beforehand. I didn't do a very good job on this one at all, so obviously did that a bit quick. But that's just to get a nice finish, and so it's the right size in there. And it's kind of, yeah, starting to look pretty cool there now. Right, let's go on to the top part of the box. So this is where grab the parts. Bearings. These will go in there with a little gentle push. There you are, superb. I'll try and push them down as evenly as you can. They're going in pretty well. That's really strong, that's great. Okay. And we have a retainer which goes on there. And the obligatory screws. These are 10mm M3 again. My favourites. Again, you don't have to have it crazy tight, just enough to nip it in place. It is plastic, so we don't over tight them as if it's a metal screw. But if you do make a mistake, you can do this a few times. It is. Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, I like that. Always looks good when it comes together. Do a dry fit test now. Look at that. It's great. There's no movement there at all. That's because of the two bearings. If you just had one, it would be a little bit wobbly. Two makes that very, very, very solid and nice and smooth. Okay. Put the inner retainer in place. Pretty close there. Okay, don't go too tight them. Just nip them up, that's all it needs. Now that is going nowhere. And they're solid now. What you can do is just run a file or a little knife around there. I think that bit there, it's well worth smoothing that edge off because your wires are going to be going through here, and you don't want them to, unless they catch, but get worn out and cut into the insulation tool. So a little smoothness around there will help. Probably not essential, but I would definitely recommend it. Okay. Right, let's assemble this bit now. Some sides on here. The little marks in there which they'll cut into. That's pretty good. In case it's not obvious, the rough side goes towards the outside, and the reason is in this one here there's going to be a press fit bearing which I'm going to put on there. Yeah, it's solid. Okay, this is a press fit bearing in there. This is for the tilt mechanism, so it's nice and smooth and goes in there quite nice. Again, just lift them up tight, don't overdo it. Hey, starting to look pretty cool there now. Okay, so for the next bit, we're going to assemble the gears onto the servo. So it goes that way round. Okay, screws in here, make sure it's lined up. It's not lined up yet. There we go. That's probably easier just to get this one through the start. That's it. That's better. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed that I made a bit of a boo-boo earlier. I put it on the wrong way around. So normally you will have your screws going through like that, and you'll need to just snip these off. But because I didn't read the instructions, I put it on the wrong way around. So they're already cut, and I just had to put them back on correct. Okay. All right, let's have a dry run on this now. Okay, there we are, looks good. Now we've now got to line the servo so that there's as little slop as possible between the two gears. There's a bit there, so if I move it in, don't need to go mad. None there at all now. So just very gentle pressure on there, and you'll see, make sure that there's a good nice mesh in there. And then what we can do is we can pop that off and just tighten these bolts up all the way then. And it should be good. The wrong driver. I can't move that. Let's try again. No, I got no movement there at all now. Between the two, you get a bit of servo slot, but the important thing is to test this. That's good. That's a good mesh there. So we're not going to screw this gear on yet because we're going to center the servo and make sure this is roughly lined up as much as possible. There is a reason for it, which we'll explain a bit later. So to the centre of the servos, there's loads of ways you can do it. I've got to use a servo tester, but you can always use flight controller or normal receiver or whatever you use. Okay, put this on. Yeah. That's a great bit of kit. That's not up on a 3D printer. There's STLs for this in the kit as well. Yeah, really useful. Okay. Servo tester. This just makes it a bit neater and lines it up for later. Okay, and you can test it as well. So I'm going to put it in the centre. Oh, actually that's worked out quite well. So what you want to try and do is see those holes there. You want to get those lining to the side so it's pretty square. Adjust this best you can so that when it's in centre position or 1500, if you use a servo tester, they're lined up to the sides. The reason for that is so that when you set your direction of your antenna, it just kind of looks neat, really. So that if you're facing forward to send up your antenna, it's like that. It's just a bit neater than being kind of off to the side. It doesn't really matter because all that matters is the position of the antenna. And if I can find the screw, we'll nip that up. Okay, so now that's all tight. They're all screwed up. Okay, there. That's all tight. Next thing, we can fit the gearbox cover up. And that stops your fingers getting. You don't have to use this. I don't think. No, you don't have to use that, but it kind of stops your fingers and bits getting caught on the gears, especially if you've got little kids or something like that. Okay, 4 of these into the right holes, which is those ones there. Okay. Okay, there you go. Yeah, we can fit this on now, I think. Which way? I'll tend to, if you see where the arrows are, I'll tend to, which is pointing that way, make sure it lines up like that. If you get it wrong, you can always screw it back on another way, so it's no problem. I lost a couple of screws somewhere. What do I do with those? Out there. No. What do I do with those? Over here. Ah, can do that for a try. Right. There we go. At this point, you're going to have a play. Let's watch it move, shall we? Right. Hee. Okay. So now we can either fit this or we can fit the top part. I think let's do the top part next. Okay, if you look to fit this tilt assembly, make sure that's roughly in line with that one. You fit it, and then obligatory 4 screws. Put a couple over here. 4. Yeah, that's my last 4. That's good. Just gives a better weight. Ah. Okay, don't over tighten them, just enough to nip them up. Okay, that's good. Alright. So now we need to fit this on here. So the next step will be to use one of the servo horns. Guess you don't have to do this, but I'm going to nip it off to make it look a bit neater. Yeah, overdid that a bit, but hey you go. A little bit of a file up. Okay, don't have to do that, but and in the kit there's a couple of these little small, tiny little 2mm screws. You can use those, or you can actually use the servo ones. But what you have to do is put this on the inside, roughly centre it, and see which are the closest holes in the servo horn. And it's the first and third on this one, so we'll screw that through. I think we'll use a small one, yeah. Right, so you can see that better there. Okay, got the sharp bits there, so you can snip those off, file them off. That's on there. Okay. That was a cool bit. Just put that roughly in place. I'm not screwing that up just yet because we have to adjust that later. One of the long screws. Can stick a couple of these washers on there. Okay, to the hole. You probably should just run a 3mm through that hole first, just to open it out a bit. I haven't bothered. You don't need to, but you probably should. All right. Okay. Actually went through okay, and fit a screw on there. Fit a nut on there. Don't do that tight. Just it's got to be able to move around. It's just to hold it in position. There you have it. That's pretty good. Pretty accurate there. Quite level. Okay. So now I'd kind of recommend leaving this off, or rather leave the screw it until you actually go into the GUI on the control board to set the right position. But for now, that's okay like that. And there we go. That's the top then. Looking good. Okay, now all we've got to do is just do the final assembly and prep some of the cabling for the receivers and for the servos. So first thing to note is if you're using the OLED, it's purely optional. Don't need it, but hey, if you got it, why not? Just make sure you're connecting it up right. Double check the manual. Let's put all these on together in one go. Okay. That's that end. And this ends. Please check the manual because I'm just doing this from memory now, so I hope I get it right. I don't know if you can see that there. Okay, I think that's right. Like I said, please check the manual first. I'm just doing that from memory at the moment. The other thing to check is make sure you have your jumper on the wireless enable. You'll need that to access the GUI and configure it. But that's in the build manual. Okay. So the next item is, okay, you're going to need to decide how to wire up your receiver, and everything connects to the VRX in, video receiver input there. Be really careful with this because there is 5 volts, there's ground, and there's full battery voltage on this. You have to make sure you've got your wiring correct. So I've pre-prepared this one for me because I know what receiver I'm going to be using. I'm using an AAT Pro 50808 diversity that normally goes on the Fat Shark. So I've already checked this pin out, so I know it's right. Ground in the middle. I'm using 5 volts, which is on that pin. Okay. It is slightly from memory this, but I'm pretty sure that's correct. Okay, and there we go. So this will feed up through the center, and then I'll take a connection from the receiver and plug into this. So you'll see that shortly. One thing you can do is, I do this on part of the connections just to give a, I know it gives a little bit of springiness in the cable, which helps in turning. See, like that. So when it pulls up through the center there, as the tracker rotates, rather than wrapping on the wires, it kind of, I don't know, it uses the springiness in the cable then, and it you'll find that the wear is much better. I'll just do this a little bit more. I've kind of done this the wrong way around, but you know what I mean. Okay, that can go up through. Normally I'd feed it down through, I think, but I think that's better to feed down. And find the other cable for this. I'm just going to plug this in here for a minute, just so in case it falls down in. Okay, and you can do a similar thing with the tilt servo. I think it makes it look better as well. I've got a little loop in that, twist in that one there. Yeah, that's better. Hope you can see this okay. Okay. Now I can't remember which servo pins are which on there. So again, check your manual. One is for tilt, one's for yaw. I'm going to go with that because I think that's the right way around. You'll see on the board there's a little marker for the ground. Every ground seems to be, I'll take that out and have a look. Every ground's connected. See, there's a little marker. I know you can see that there. That shows the ground pin. I'm not sure I've got these right way around. I'm going to check the manual in a minute, but I'll put them there for now so you can see how it goes. Okay. Okay, so we're ready to assemble the two parts now. I'm just going to use my little stand I knocked out. That is in the STLs if you want to make it. It's yeah, it's built in. Okay, so I've just popped 4 screws down in here. Pop them down in and just get them so they're just sticking out underneath a little bit, and that'll help locate the screws in the lower bit a bit better, in the lower box. Okay. Now, underneath the gearbox, you'll see some arrows pointing in a direction, and that's just to make sure it's in the right position, because one side's slightly longer than the other. There is a reason for it, but it's easy to get caught out. Okay. So it's best to start with the side or the panel with all the connections in, and you kind of have to just maneuver it down in place slightly, and there are some locating strips on the bottom of the gearbox which helps, but you might have to maneuver a little bit. And that's gone in quite nice there, so we'll screw down on that one. You might have to push in the sides a bit because they do spring out until it's all assembled. Just a light bit of pressure there. Same with these ones. Push them in. Little screw down there. Last one. Position there. That's it. Just going to make sure those screws line up with the holes, and that's pretty much it. I'm sure it's the right screw, that was it. Yeah. Next one. Okay, there you go. That is now really solid. It's amazing how solid that is. Those quite, on their own quite flimsy, but together really, really strong. Okay, so you can test it like this. I will just assemble this last bit. So this is the EA Sheen Pro Diversity of our Fat Shark. And this is kind of my module of choice because I like it. It's small, just works. I've actually modded it so that when I press the button, I can see all the displays, etc. On the actual monitor. It's a really good bit of kit. This, so included with the STLs and the Google source code is so the all the STLs are generated from Google SketchUp Make 2017 version, which is free. So you can take those files and amend however you want, either the STLs or the actual SketchUp files themselves. You can make whatever you want for your receiver. There's a couple of ones included. You've got this, you have, I think it's Immersion RC, Uno, fitment. There's all sorts, but it's a standard. I think it's 80mm, and you can make up your own plates however you want. Fits on really easily with a couple of screws, or I just use some cable ties like this. The reason I do the cable ties, I can quickly pop them off and put a different one on if I want to in the field, if I'm going to run a 2.4 instead of a 5.8. Looks great. Wrong way around. I'll just brush that on quickly now to show you. They look neater with some screws, but these work well. Okay. And yeah, there's a reason I put that little cable on there. This has got damn caught down inside. Oh, I did put all that on. Yes, there we go. Might be better to actually fit this first before you assemble the bottom components, the gearbox, etc. Yeah, there we go. There's your unit. So, shall we pair it up? Okay, I'm going to show you another version that I've got. So this one has some slight different STLs. So this is one without the OLED, so I'm only using the 4 LEDs. I've got a side panel here which fits a particular 4-inch LCD that's available on eBay for like $20 or whatever it is. It makes for a really nice compact unit. Yeah, it just takes one of the unused video outputs. So there's 2 on there. Yeah, so I've used one of those and the power cable to it. Really nice. On this side, I'll put that off there. I'm using a battery mount. These are all STLs, are all optional. They are on the share with the rest of the files. You can make them with or without these. I think they're really good, actually. Pretty useful. Makes it for an all-in-one unit. You literally just click this on your tripod, all one go. It's quite neat. So at the field, you turn up, plug this in your tripod, cable in, switch it on, and off you go. Yeah, another little adapter. STLs are available for that in the along with the rest of the files. What you saw, put them on. Okay. I took the antenna off here as well, just so you can see this. That's the RX 5808 Pro diversity fat track module in there. It'd be easy to amend one of these for virtually any of the fat track units. Yeah, so a few holes in there for the heat to come out, 2 antenna points. You can easily get to your little push buttons there. Yeah, nice little unit, really. This is what I fly with most of the time. And to be honest, I don't usually fly diversity. I've usually got the Terminator on one of those and a good directional antenna on there. And so the one thing I find with these is that, I mean, it's nice having that diversity, but to be honest, it tracks so well, you just don't need it. I mean, I tend to fly with a single receiver for so many years now and still bother with diversity, but I'm sure most people prefer that, and I've kind of got it, so I should use it, really. Okay, there you go, guys.